All right, let's get right into it. We all see the headlines, we hear the outrage, but what if the real story of racism in football is happening somewhere we can't even see? Today, we're going to dig into the research to uncover a hidden playbook of exclusion that goes way, way beyond the pitch. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, I know. But here's the thing. The sources we're looking at suggest that if we only focus on the most obvious, ugly incidents, we're basically missing the entire game. So stick with me here, because we're about to peel back a lot of layers. Okay, first up, Section 1, more than monkey chance. We have to start with the familiar face of racism in the sport, right? This is the stuff that makes the news. The hateful chants, the slurs yelled from the stands. It's ugly, it's undeniable, and it's usually where the conversation starts and honestly where it often ends. And it has such a real human impact. I mean, this quote from a fan named Sunny just hits you, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that emotional weight. It's not just about the players on the field, it's about the entire environment we create for everyone, including families who just want to go and enjoy a game. This is the racism we can all point to and agree is just completely unacceptable. But here it is. The crucial question the research forces us to ask. Is this the whole story? Do the problems begin and end with these horrible moments? Or is this just the very, very tip of the iceberg? Let's find out. Section 2 is called the whiteness playbook. And this, right here, is where things start to get really fascinating. We're peeling back that first layer to look at how identity itself is policed. And you might be surprised to find out that these unwritten rules are so powerful, they can actually be used against white players who don't fit into a very, very specific mold. And that brings us to this key idea from the research, contingent whiteness. Basically, the theory goes that whiteness isn't just a matter of skin color. It's about performance. You only get access to all its privileges if you act the part, if you conform to the dominant cultural norms. And the perfect case study for this, a player you definitely know, Cristiano Ronaldo. And you can see the clash so clearly right here. On one side, you've got the traditional, ideal British masculinity for a footballer, stoic, gritty, determined, a real team-first kind of guy. And on the other side, you have Ronaldo, who is often perceived as theatrical, flamboyant, vain, more of an individualist. Because his performance of masculinity doesn't fit that old-school norm, his whiteness becomes conditional. It's contingent. And this quote just drives the whole point home. A participant in one of the studies, when asked to sort players into categories, literally said he'd have to put Ronaldo in an other pile. Not the white pile, not the black pile, but in other pile. So even though Ronaldo was white, the way he acted got him classified as an outsider. Wild, right? So if even a white player's identity can be policed like that, it really makes you wonder, what's being said behind closed doors? Well, that brings us to our next layer, the massive divide between what powerful people say in public and what they really think in private. The research calls this front stage versus backstage. The front stage is the public performance. It's where everyone says the right thing, overt racism is condemned, and you're expected to make anti-racist gestures. But the backstage? Well, that's the private world, the safe spaces among trusted friends, where racist, sexist, and homophobic views are sometimes shared freely. Think of the Donald Sterling scandal in the NBA. That was a classic case of backstage talk suddenly being dragged out into the front stage light. And whenever this happens, this predictable cycle just kicks right in. Step 1, a powerful person makes a racist comment in private. Step 2, it gets leaked. Step 3, and this is key, the apology focuses on the fact that a private conversation was made public. See the switch? The crime isn't what was said, it's that it got out. And then step 4, the system and its allies circle the wagons to protect their own. Okay, time to peel back another layer. What if the very language we've created to try and fight racism is actually, in some ways, hiding the problem? Yeah, we're talking about acronyms like BAME, Black, Asian, and Minority Ethnic. This quote from Maha, who's a professional in the equality, diversity, and inclusion space, absolutely nails it. When you lump all these incredibly diverse groups into one single bucket, you can end up erasing their unique struggles and experiences. It's just not a one-size-fits-all situation. So, let's look at some numbers to see exactly what this means in the real world. According to census data, people who identify as British South Asian make up around 9% of the UK population. That's a pretty significant slice of the country. Now get ready for this. They represent less than half of 1%
of professional male footballers in England. I mean, just look at that disparity. It is enormous. And by using a broad brush term like BAME, this absolutely shocking level of underrepresentation can just get smoothed over and lost in the data.
So, we've gone past the individual insults, past the private conversations, past the flawed language. And now? Now we've arrived at the very core of the problem that the research identifies, the invisible system itself. So, how does this system actually work? Well, the research points to a few key things. First, social cloning. Leaders hiring people who are basically younger versions of themselves. This creates something called homophilic safety, that cozy, comfortable feeling you get when you're surrounded by people from the exact same background. And that leads to closed networks, where getting a job is all about who you know, not what you know. And the sources argue that all of this operates within a system of white supremacy. And to be clear, we're not talking about hate groups here. We're talking about a system where white cultural norms are just the silent, unstated default for what's professional and who fits in.
And if you want a jaw-dropping example of the system protecting itself, here it is. This was the official defense from the League Managers Association for manager Malky McKay after he sent tons of racist, sexist, and homophobic texts. They literally dismissed it all as inappropriate comments made during some friendly text message banter. Friendly banter. They're reframing something awful to minimize the harm and protect the person. It's incredible.
So, this is it. This is the crucial point we've been building towards. The research makes a really compelling case that racism in football isn't just about a few bad apples in the crowd or in the boardroom. It is an entire ecosystem, a powerful, self-protecting system that keeps things the way they are through culture, through language, and through these closed-off networks.
And that leaves us with one last massive question to think about. If the real problem isn't just a few bad individuals, but the entire structure itself, then punishing a person here or there isn't going to fix it. It forces us to ask a much bigger question. What on earth will it take to change the whole orchard?